Hi, I'm Zoe. I am a 38-year-old mum from Australia. My current situation is that I am applying for a UK visa to join my husband in the UK. He is already over there. He is a dual citizen, so he has a British passport, lucky duck. And we have a 2.5, almost 3-year-old child. And I'm sitting down to film this mainly because I put my child to bed and I was going slightly insane refreshing my email because it's been, what day are we on now? It has been 22 days since we attended our biometrics appointment, which is where you do your fingerprints and get your photo taken and all that stuff, and they take all your documents. So yeah, I think we're on day 22 since then. 22 working days, sorry, not including weekends, 22 working days. And we paid for priority processing, which when you apply from outside of the UK, it is up to 30 days. However, I had to attend the visa place in Sydney a few times. I won't go into that, but there was some issues, lots of issues, communication issues, and yeah, anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, anyway, so I attended there multiple times. Every time I attended, I asked, what is the current processing times? You know, it says up to 30 working days on the website. Is that accurate? And multiple people told me, I think 3 different times, they all said 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. Now we've passed that 4 weeks. I have a flight booked for Saturday night to go back to London. I am currently at 2 months apart from my husband and have been solo parenting our child, which is incredibly hard. I'm sure I don't even need to say that. I'm very grateful because I am staying with my parents. So we luckily have had accommodation, and I've been able to catch up with some friends and things like that. But yeah, it's, we initially thought it would only be 6 weeks, so we're now at 2 months. And I'm really nervous that it's going to be longer, that I'm going to get to Friday night, which will be the cutoff for the visa, in terms of rebooking. I'm worried I'm going to get to Friday night and still have no visa and need to rebook my flights. Now, luckily, our flights are with China Eastern Airways, so we can sorry, what am I saying? Our flights are with China Eastern Airways, so the flight actually doesn't go through the Middle East. So in terms of flight path, it should be fine. However, if I do need to rebook, I'm quite anxious that because it is one of the airlines that doesn't fly through the Middle East, that it will be booked out and it's going to take me a long time to get another flight, which may mean even longer apart from my husband, and our child has been apart from their dad, and I just am in limbo. And I know I brought this on myself. I know this was our choice, okay? This dream of living in the UK has been on our bucket list for, I want to say 20 years. My husband and I have been together. We met when we were teenagers, so it has been on our bucket list for a very, very long time, and we finally are doing it. And we knew it would be hard. We knew it would be tough, and you know, we expected this. We knew we would be apart. We knew it would take a while. I knew it wasn't going to be quick. I busted my ass off when I got back to get the visas in and get it all applied for and paid for. I don't even want to go into how much it's cost because it's yeah, it's ridiculous. but I guess it is what it is. And that's what you have to do to have the opportunity and to be able to do this. So anyway, that's where we're at. That's who I am. I should be sleeping. It's probably close to midnight right now. And I've just spent way too much of my time just literally staring at my email, refreshing, hoping that the visas will just pop up and I can finally breathe and properly pack my bags, because I have packed my bags. I've got 3 suitcases that I need to lug back to England with my child. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, that's where we're at. I couldn't stay in bed anymore. I have a few little like really random pottery pieces that I made from some reclaimed clay, and they're very wonky and a bit, you know, whatever. But I was just like, I need to do something to take my mind off this, because I'm actually going insane. So I've just got a little wet sponge, just cleaning down these pieces before I glaze them. Now I haven't used my glaze for a while and it's looking quite gluggy, so I'm gonna have to go put some water in it, and then I'll be back. Much better. So this is the glaze that I am using. It is Potter's Choice Flux Amico River Birch, lead-free, food safe, and it's really gorgeous. I will at the end show you a piece that I have that's already glazed in this. So all right, let's get going. So I need to do 3 layers of this in the pieces. When you're glazing, 3 layers. There is nothing like doing something as repetitive as glazing to take your mind off something. And I really don't have the ideal things. This brush is probably definitely way too small, but I don't care. Honestly, these pieces were, you know, I am not holding much hope. They're not going to be amazing, but that's fine. And that is the beauty of ceramics, is that sometimes it's the wonky pieces that end up the best and the ones that I love the most. And, you know, it's the first time that I reclaimed clay. I mixed a few different clays together to create, just to create this. So yeah, so we'll see how it turns out. I started doing ceramics, gosh, when did I start doing ceramics? Must have been 2019. I'm pretty sure it was 2019 I started. It was definitely before COVID. And I started off at a studio in Sydney. I did some beginner classes there. Very quickly became obsessed with ceramics and pottery, and I just continued sort of on and off, you know, as funds allowed. I've continued to do it. Gosh, this is so slow. That's okay. Oh god, you know, it's fine. So yeah, I just continued doing pottery on and off when I could, and I loved it. I still love it. I'm really hoping to find a studio in London where I can continue practicing and working on my skills. I've emailed a lot of ceramic studios in South London, which is where I'm going to be based, because a lot of them do like open studio, which is basically where you can the studio's open, and as long as you kind of know what you're doing, you can just come and use the space. You can use the wheel, and sometimes they'll let you use the glazes, and often there'll be firing, like kiln firing included, or you can pay for that separately as well. So yes, I'm going to hopefully find somewhere. Everywhere that I've contacted has got a wait list. So that's a shame, but I think that's, you know, that's to be expected. And it's so much money anyway, and I do not have any money at the moment to fund that anyway, so I have to pay for a membership. So anyway, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I love it so much. It is so relaxing, and I'm so glad that I chose to do this tonight instead of laying in bed, absolutely losing my mind, staring at my email. So yeah, this is amazing. This is probably really boring to watch. I don't even know if I'm going to share this, but anyway. So yeah, so what else about me? I am one of those people that have done lots of different things. I get bored very easily. And so I move around a lot. So in some things, so there's some things that have kind of stayed consistent throughout my life. From the very get-go, when I was young, I always wanted to be an actress. That was my original goal in life. You know, when anyone would ever ask me what I wanted to be, it was always I wanted to be an actress. And that still stayed consistent. I can't even really explain why I want to be an actress. I just love it. I love, you know, learning about character, getting into character, being someone else for a little while, learning the lines, learning the backstory. I love the research side of it. I love how fun it is. It's like playing dress-ups, but as an adult. And yeah, it's just lots of fun. I really love it. I always used to think I only ever wanted to be on screen. I had an agent when I was younger, and I only ever went for like screen stuff, and I didn't do very many things. I did some ads and some extra work when I was a teenager. It was just so fun. And then when I finished school, I got into an acting school in Sydney, and I studied there for 2 years, and it was mainly theatre, but theatre and screen acting. And just drop some on my sponge, that's okay. So yeah, and then I really got into theatre. I didn't do theatre much when I was younger, mainly because I was really big into dancing, and so dancing kind of took up my whole life outside of school. Probably kept me out of trouble, which is a good thing, and was pretty all-consuming, so I didn't really have time to do sort of theatre stuff outside of school. So I did theatre. Love it. I love the like adrenaline rush of being on stage, and I love the like two-way like communication between like the actors and the audience, and like kind of, I know it sounds weird, but like playing with people. Does that sound really bad? Like playing with the audience, like, you know, when you get something right in a scene, or like you get an emotion right, or you deliver a line, you know, a certain way, and the audience react the way that you want them to, is really exciting, like a really adrenaline rush and a thrill. And I've always just loved making people feel something. Often when I was younger, it was making people laugh. Was my favorite thing to do. I've always been, and still am, very much a big kid and a bit of a, I was gonna say dag, but I know that that's an Australian word, but I know that I think that means something else in other countries. So like I've never had a problem basically like making fun of myself and being silly and being like the class clown. And I always was quite energetic and outgoing, and yeah, just really loved making people laugh. I used to make up little like skits and scenes to like make my sisters laugh. And I remember one of my like my most famous sketch when I was a child, sorry, was I used to love like putting on an American accent, and I would like pretend to be like Jerry Springer, and I would like play Jerry Springer, and I would play all the different guests, because I just thought it was such an hilarious show and so fun to play these like really wild out there characters that were like just sounded so different and behaved so different to, you know, what I was used to in Australia. So yeah, that was always like so much fun. And then, yeah, and then what did I do after that? Oh, so then after I did acting, I studied acting for a couple of years. I did screen acting course at Screenwise in Sydney, and I got showreel from that course. And then I moved back to Newcastle, and I did get an agent, and I got some work through my agent, but nothing major. And I was kind of just working and was, you know, in hindsight, I really wasn't hustling the way that I should have been. So that's on me. And so then, yeah, I thought, oh gosh, what am I going to do? I don't want to be, you know, I was working in retail, and I just thought, you know, is this where I see myself forever? What else am I interested in? What else could I do? And I've always been absolutely obsessed with babies. Everyone in my family will attest to this, and all my friends, that I'm baby obsessed. Was baby obsessed. We'll get to that. And so I thought, oh, okay, I'll be a midwife. So yeah, so I went to university. Because I'd been out of school for so long, I had to do a course to get a new like mark for my high school, like a new entry mark for university. So I did that, and the mark was incredibly high for midwifery, but I just put my head down and studied like crazy, and I got into midwifery. So I completed my Bachelor of Midwifery. I did it over 4 years because I had to go part-time in 3rd year because I was really struggling. I realised pretty early on that it wasn't for me, but I kept going anyway. Mainly because my grandmother passed away in 2nd year, when I was in 2nd year of midwifery. She'd been unwell for quite a while. And, you know, she had this idea that, you know, young people, they're always changing their minds and they're changing degrees and blah, blah, blah. So she made me promise that I wouldn't change, that I would finish the degree. So, yeah, so I kind of took my time. I went part-time in 3rd year, mainly because I couldn't continue full-time. And so, yeah, so I continued doing that. I didn't even know if I would apply for a job when I finished midwifery, but I ended up doing it. I did my new grad. I worked rural for a little bit, and then I worked in Sydney, and then I worked at a few different places in Sydney. And I did it for 3 years, not without a lot of problems and panic attacks and a massive increase, or I guess like increase in depression and anxiety, or potentially even the first time that I'd really noticed that I had depression and anxiety. I didn't quite know what was going on. I just knew that, like, just even trying to get dressed to go to work when I worked at the hospital was, I would have a meltdown, and I would just be like in tears and just, yeah, I felt terrible, but I would often call in sick very last minute because, like, yeah, because the anxiety was just so high. And yeah, so and they were really helpful. The hospital was really helpful and moved me into an area that I was more comfortable in, but I kind of knew it was time to move on. And so anyway, I should check this is still recording. Yes, it is. Okay. So again, and through my studying at midwifery, I did do some theatre work. I made some incredible connections with people in this area, and was able to be in some shows, and I will forever be grateful for that. So yeah, so then it's now, where are we up to? So now it's like 2019. Oh shit, I just dropped some. And I was literally at breaking point. I was like, I have to get out of midwifery. I cannot do this anymore. I do not have the personality for this job. It was just taking too much of a toll on me physically and mentally, and on my marriage. I would never see my husband because I was doing shift work, and he was in an office, so we just would never see each other. So yeah, so anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. So where is it up to? Yeah, so 2019, early 2019, I was, yeah, really struggling, and I was trying to think, what do I do next? What could be my next thing? I really didn't care. I was applying for anything and everything. Even though it would have been a pay cut, I was applying for retail jobs. I needed to get out. And anyway, I used to spend, this is kind of funny, and all my friends and family have probably heard this, but anyway, yeah, I used to spend a lot of my days off when I wasn't working, or the morning before if I was on an afternoon shift, at my local library. So I was living in North Sydney at the time, and I would go to Stanton Library in North Sydney, and you know, I would go there because it was quiet and peaceful, and I'd always loved reading, and I just love libraries so much. I kind of rediscovered libraries when I was in my 20s, when I realized that they had free like magazines and DVDs. I was kind of just like, I spent so much money on like buying magazines and getting like magazine subscriptions to like Vogue and all those, you know, those ones. And then I kind of went into a library when I was in my 20s, and I was like, what? You can just read them for free at the library? I was like, lost my mind a little bit at that point. I was just like, that is amazing. And yeah, so anyway, so I used to spend a lot of my time in libraries. And I, you know, I'm trying to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I just thought, oh, look up, like, how do I become a librarian? Like, is that something that I could be? You know, like, I'd love to work in libraries. I'd love to work somewhere quiet. That's not like, no one's dying, no like life-threatening, no life-threatening things going on, no buzzes, no emergencies, no blood, no bleed, like no whatever. So anyway, so I looked it up, and I saw that I could do a master's in librarianship, completely online, and it would take a while because it was quite a big master's degree, like it was 13 subjects, I think. And I was like, yep, I am going to do that. That would be great. Having no idea what I was, you know, getting into. All I knew from that point, at that point, was really was public libraries. So anyway, I applied for that, and started that in July 2019. And then in August 2019, so only a few weeks later, a job came up for an internship at a university library in Sydney. And I wasn't going to apply for it because I thought, oh no, I'll keep working as a midwife until I finish. Like, they're not going to take me. I've only literally started less than a month ago. Like, there's no way, you know, there's no point really. Other people are going to apply that have got way more experience than me. But anyway, my husband pushed me to apply, and I somehow got the job. So literally within like weeks, I switched to casual at the hospital. I continued working casual shifts up until March 2020 when COVID hit, and then I was like, called it quits at that point. So I used to work weekends and work during the week as well, 4 days a week, and then Fridays I would study. It was my study day. So yeah, so I did that for like almost 2 years, which was incredible. And a lot of that time was during COVID, obviously, and I loved it. It was so, like, for me anyway, from what I'd come from, it was very relaxing, especially being an intern role. There was very little responsibility, but I took it seriously, and I learned so much, and the team that I worked with were amazing, and I loved them so much, and they really embraced me and taught me so many things, and I learned so many skills. Like, that was my first time kind of being exposed to Canva and things like that, but like, I never really explored that side of myself before. Like, I'm definitely not an artist in the traditional, you know, paint sense. I cannot draw to save my life, unless it's a stick figure. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so it was really amazing, and I loved it. And during that time, you know, COVID was happening. It was so many lockdowns, blah, blah, blah. And my husband and I had moved back to our moved out of Sydney at that point, because we were working from home for so long, and we bought a property years and years ago off the plan, and it was finally finished, so we could move into it. So we moved back to our hometown, and then we were commuting for a little bit once the offices opened back up, but eventually we decided to get jobs back here in our hometown. And yeah, it was really amazing. We both ended up working at the local university, and we loved it. And after a 3-4 year journey, I hate that word, but journey with infertility and IVF, we had our child in 2023. And so yeah, so that's where we've been at. And this, you know, this dream of living in London, living in the UK has always been there. Throughout everything, it's always come up. Like, I look in my diaries from when I'm literally from when I'm like 14 or 15, before I even met my husband. And I'm saying, you know, saying in my diary, like, my dream's to live in London, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so that's where we're at. I still need to do another coat on these, but I might put some music on. And I will show you, I'll go get that other piece and show you what it looks like when it's finished, because at the moment they don't look like anything special, I know. So I'll show you what they're gonna look like. So this is another piece that I made, and this is the glaze. What's it called? The Amico River Birch. So this is a vase that I made. Really proud of this one. I think it's one of the biggest vases. I think it is the biggest vase that I've ever made. I know it doesn't look that big, but any potters will know. They go through 2 rounds of firing, and it would have started off much bigger than this. So it goes through its first firing, which is bisque firing, and then you put the glaze on. You do 3 coats of the glaze, and then it goes in its final one to seal it. So yeah, I'm so happy with this one. And I don't know if you could see when I was painting on those, I'm not sure if it's on there, but there's some like chunky bits, and that's those these like brown bits that end up like melting and like dripping down, which I just think are so beautiful. And it's got this really like peachy, like creamy peachy tone. Yeah, really happy with it. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going with this, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions. If anyone else out there is going through the UK spouse visa process, you have my sympathies. I hope you have a smooth journey and a quick journey, and the same for me. I hope that it turns out being worth it. I'm sure that it will be. And even if we come home after, you know, 2.5 years, that's fine. We did it. We gave it a shot. And yeah, I can be proud of that, that we achieved that. So yeah, follow along. I'm going to do more videos on the journey and life in London. I really enjoying making videos and that creative side to it. So yeah, sorry, my cat's just come in to say hi. Anyway, bye. Sorry, it's such a rambly video. But anyway, bye. Love you.